Hello and welcome to the GTN show. This week we have multiple world records, a 12-hour running record and a record for consecutive day marathons.
And perhaps the toughest race that you might have never even heard of has started, the Spine Race. On top of that, we've got some exciting news from the Global Bike Festival where you're going to have the opportunity of joining us.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about the rise of indoor training and getting the balance right between indoor versus outdoor training for triathlon.
All right, we're going to kick things off by taking a look at all we spotted. There's quite a lot going on this week, and we're not spending too long on this topic, I promise, but the first one comes from Ben Canute, and it's titled Kona v Nice. Now, this is more to do with dates and planning, and he's put out a YouTube video basically explaining why he's not actually going to be racing at the World Champs in Nice. And he says the way the races are being released makes it hard to plan for more than 6 or 12 months in advance. And Nice in September obviously wasn't expected. And he says it's a big issue for him because it just so happens that Nice is on the exact same day as his brother's wedding. So it's a big no for me.
Yeah, we've been anticipating Ben's step up to Ironman for quite some time, and we really do think he's going to be quite a force at the Ironman World Championships, and he does joke that this is probably the longest road to the Ironman World Championships ever. So yeah, really gutted for him and obviously for the spectators.
Races,
I mean,
exactly.
It would have been fantastic to see him racing there, and I really do think he would have been fantastic on the Nice course. But as he alludes to, he said just the way that races are being released now makes it really hard to plan more than 6 months or 12 months in advance. He even alludes to the fact that his family tried to plan around his race season for him and taking into account the Ironman World Championships, and still it hasn't worked. It literally falls on the exact same weekend. I mean, we are yet to, or we'll go into it today, but some of the PTO races we're still waiting for some of the exact dates. And as a pro, that's really hard for your season planning.
Yeah, for everybody, isn't it, involved? Looking ahead at the season, this next post from Sam Long, saying, wow, what I've learned, the sports scientists make it look very easy to get a proper and reliable lactate reading. On my own, I wasn't so good. Guess I'll be practicing smooth hands this season as well. I wonder if he's been inspired by the Norwegians for wanting to get a bit of lactate testing in.
I've seen quite a few now actually out with their monitors. Hopefully they all know what they're doing. But yeah, great to see him doing some pre-season testing. We've also seen Ellie Salthouse and Amelia Watkinson taking part in the individual time trial national champs over in Australia, which, I mean, they are hotly contested national champs. I mean, the road racing as well. I mean, you see some top-notch pro cyclists turning up to those. So they got stuck in, both finished in the top 10. They were around 4 or 5 minutes down in the lead, but fantastic performances.
Yeah.
And,
I think Ellie was just outside. She was 11th.
Okay.
Well, yeah, still respectable, very impressive results and all great training at this time of year, I guess. Next, I spotted this one. It's just a really nice little video of Heather Jackson, who's kind of transitioning into ultra running and gravel bike racing. And this is her out training with her dog. I just think it's just a really lovely video.
Lovely. Also, another one from the How They Train podcast with a Joe Skipper hardest Ironman training day post. So it starts with a long ride. This was one of his workouts in the lead up to the Ironman World Championships, where obviously he placed 5th. So it's a long ride, which includes 3 minutes at 420 to 430 watts into 2 minutes at 460 watts up a climb. So straight in, so that's 5 minutes straight, well in excess of 420 watts, then into 5 minutes easy, 7 times through. And then off of that, he then goes into basically, I think he's saying it's a 14K run, so 2K warm up, 10K at 316 per kilometre pace, so 32.46 for 10K, 2K run home. And then at some point during the day, whether it's at the start or the end of the day, he does a long swim, which includes 5 by 400 metres and 10 by 200 metres, plus a 1,000 warm-up. So that's quite a big day.
I mean,
give him that.
Each one of those on their own are huge.
Yeah.
Okay, the swim's big. Well, the swim maybe not huge, but the rest are
huge. But Joe just floats around in the swimming pool anyway.
I mean,
sorry, I'm joking.
Impressive. I love the way all these stats are getting shared, and I wonder if we're going to see any amateurs trying to practice that one or give that day a go. Good luck if you are.
We're now moving on to some pretty exciting news. This is a new world record. A 12-hour record in Israel, running an incredible 152.6 33 kilometres.
Oh, yeah, amazing stuff. And she's also put another post here, which some of you guys might find interesting. I certainly did, just breaking down what she ate at what stage and when it changed, and how she relied on gels initially and then goes to normal food a bit later on, and her lessons from that. So yeah, very interesting insight. And also, having spotted this, I've now started following her, and she's now training for shorter distances. And just over a week after, went and raced a 5K and pretty fast as well. So
I find this sort of stuff incredible. I mean, Tom Evans, who I think he placed second or third at UTMB this year, also runs an incredible sub 14 minute.
Oh my God.
Sub 14 minute 5K.
Wow.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Anyway, for any triathlon fans out there that may recognise the name Leslie Patterson, I mean, you may well do, because she is multiple ex-Terra World Champion and ITU Cross World Triathlon Champion. Well, she's very talented. She's gone and put out an amazing film on Netflix. It's called All Quiet on the Western Front. If you haven't already seen it, I fully recommend. Have you seen it?
Do you know, I started watching it and I struggle with that sort of thing. If watching it for how well it's shot, it is incredible, but it's not my style of film. I just get a little bit too sad.
Well, yeah, they do actually say it is very different from, obviously it's a war film, but it's very different from a lot of war films. It pulls more on about kind of the loss and shame rather than the glory and pride that you often get in war films. But essentially, she worked on this alongside her husband, I think since like 2003, so it's been a long old project. It's based on the book which she read years ago while she was at school. It was since then a Hollywood film back in 1930, and now they've managed to get it commissioned out on Netflix and doing a fantastic job.
It's doing so well, isn't it? It's amazing. I remember when we were out filming with her, I think in 2019, we did a few clips, bits with Leslie, and she was talking about it then, and I was just like, really? You're making a film in Hollywood? It sounds pretty cool. So great to actually see it come to fruition.
And now on to an epic event that you may not have heard of, the Spine Race, which is an ultra running event here in the UK, which takes place between Derbyshire and Kirkgethilm in Scotland. It's 268 miles or 429 kilometres, and obviously a heck of a lot of elevation with that. So it goes without saying, it's a multi-day ultra. At the moment, they're obviously in the middle of it, so we can't give you the final results. But on the men's side, we've got Kim Collison and Damien Hall running together, increasing their lead on the rest of the pack. Yeah,
well, the women's race, it was being led by Elaine Bisson, but she's had to withdraw overnight. She's okay, apparently. And when we filmed this, it was actually Claire Banois who was in the lead, a French woman. So it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds for both sides.
Fancy it, ever?
I mean, I love the fact that we were looking up the distances, and the sort of short, easy race is 100 and something miles, and to sort of feel like that's just like the baby sister.
I also saw the photo of the winner of that, and he looked ruined. Yeah. I may not do the full Spine race ever.
Yeah, I don't think that's all. I'm talking after our bucket list triathlon, it's not going to go on a bucket list running race, is it?
Now, so see some really cool news here announced by Canyon today, or as you're seeing this a couple of days ago. It was Sam Laidlow joining the Canyon team. Obviously placed second at the Ironman World Championships in Kona this year. Big breakthrough performance for him. And yeah, joining forces with Canyon. Clearly been doing a bit of testing already on the velodrome, getting that position dialed. But yeah, fantastic addition to the team.
Especially being a Frenchman with the world champs being in France, going in as a second place finisher from the previous year. I mean, that's very exciting, isn't it? Yeah. A slightly less serious post here that I just spotted by Golly Molly, her Instagram handle, of just the pain when she's had a bit of a collision with a cactus whilst out training, and the surgery afterwards.
I did do this when I was in Tenerife, out for a run in the morning, and I can confirm it's actually quite painful.
It looks it.
I had to pick that out of my toe for the next couple of days.
There's an image for you.
Yeah. Now, before we get into the triathlon news, we have some very exciting news of our own.
Yeah, we have indeed. GTN and GMBN have been having quite a bit of fun the last couple of summers at the Global Bike Festival. We've just had to watch rather enviously, but we are now getting involved.
Yeah, the Global Bike Festival will be taking place between the 15th to the 18th of June, and we are planning to create our own GTN experience and you're invited.
Yeah, so to stay with the festival vibe, we're going to be creating a unique programme of cycling and running with a bit of an alpine twist. So it's going to be taking in the breathtaking scenery around the Saalbach-Helglem area in Austria. We're going to have daily trail runs, there'll be some cycling as well, and there might even be the opportunity to squeeze in the odd dip in the beautiful lake at Zell am See, which just happens to be where the Austria 70.3 is held.
Yeah, very cool. Now, each evening we'll also be joining in and enjoying the festival activities and entertainment such as live shows, early film showings, live music, and so much more.
Yeah, well, if that sounds up your street, if you like a bit of training over a long weekend as well as some relaxation and just hanging out with us, I mean, maybe that's not the biggest selling point, but yeah, this could be for you.
Well, yeah, we're going to be offering limited number of spaces to join this GTN experience at the festival. More information will be coming very soon, but if you want to register your interest, you can do so now and you'll get early access to those spots. So head on over to globalbikefestival.com/GTN to register now. I thought we'd actually start today by discussing indoor cycling and how much you do. Now, this has kind of come about because this week they've announced that the indoor cycling bike market is due to rise by about 6% between 2022 and 2028, and also the indoor turbo training market is due to rise from around $248 million to around $312 million by 2028, which is pretty nuts, really, when you remember just how rubbish indoor cycling used to be. I mean, I used to literally ride in hailstorms to avoid riding indoors.
Yeah, I was totally the same. And if those of you who think that riding an indoor trainer might be quite tough now, if you haven't experienced dumb trainer as well, you didn't miss out on anything. I do remember, I mean, probably not as much as you, Mark, because I haven't been cycling as long, but you know, sort of getting this thing called a turbo that I picked up from a friend's house that had this rust on it and just put my bike attached to it. I had no idea what I was doing, no idea how hard I was working. All I knew was that it smelled funny, and after the end of each session there was those bits of like rubber pellets, which I then found out, because I used the same tyre, were basically bits of my tyre that were just coming off in the session, and I didn't have a spare one, definitely not at that point.
No, definitely, and there was also just the flywheel on it. I mean, they're so much more advanced now. You get that real world feel, and you literally would stop pedaling and the wheel would stop almost instantly. So it meant, you know, you literally had to keep cycling the entire. It was really quite hard. But sadly, I don't actually have exact figures here to back this one up. But I think it's pretty safe to say that many of us are doing far more indoor training, particularly in the cycling world. And I think there's very good reason for that. It is a very efficient use of time. You can literally just jump on the turbo trainer. You don't need to necessarily clean your bike afterwards as well.
Yeah, that's a bonus.
And research actually does suggest that riding indoors for 1 hour is equivalent to riding outdoors for 90 minutes with regards to energy expenditure, providing you obviously are riding at the same sort of effort. But
yeah,
also,
I like that fact. I think I reckon it's double in my mind. That's what I justify it with anyway.
Yeah, I did often used to when I was prescribing people workouts way back. People be like, "Oh, the weather's really bad, but you've got a 4-hour ride this weekend." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, knock an hour off." But I mean, I think there is some truth to that. But also, obviously, there's the fact that you can just get into a workout quite quickly. Like you can just do a simple 10-minute warm-up or something rather than having to ride to somewhere to find a suitable road. And of course, the big one, you can just get your head down and get on with the session without having to worry about potholes.
Or even think, because you can set your session and just ride on erg mode and you're sorted. That's an aspect I love, because otherwise I just wouldn't do a session. I'd just ride my bike.
And then of course the big one that we sort of alluded to already is that real world feel. They are just so much more advanced, and you do get that genuine feel, and it does translate quite well to the road. So for that reason, I am totally converted. And if, of course, you live anywhere like a city or somewhere hilly that you just cannot go and do these sort of sessions that are relevant to triathlon, then it's an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, we sound like we're just sort of 100% behind it, but you do have to look at both sides of the argument here. And triathletes do get criticised for the amount of indoor training they do, because you are obviously not developing the other aspects of cycling, of your bike handling and being able to react to different surfaces and to hills. And yes, you might have a kick a climb, but it's still not replicating exactly what you expect. And also just the general being aware of your spatial awareness on the road and the energy that requires. You can't really measure that very crazily, but it's all part of riding your bike.
Yeah, I don't think it's any secret. Us triathletes do get a lot of stick from our cycling friends for our bike handling. And unfortunately, there is some truth to that. I mean, the riding that we do is mostly solo. It's quite linear TT efforts. And then you add to that, we just ride indoors all the time, or a majority of it's indoors. We're not really helping ourselves. I guess a classic example is Lionel Sanders. Yeah, Lionel Sanders. But I mean, he put his hands up himself and said, actually, I need to do more outside. And he did a load of videos around it because he found that when he went out onto the road, he was losing or wasting energy because he just was tense and he wasn't applying the force at the right points. There's all these little things that, and you watch those like Jan Frodeno, who are just so smooth and comfortable out on the roads, and that is a big factor.
It will be interesting to see if we start seeing more change. Obviously, right now we are in the depths of winter, so talking about kind of going out on your bike is maybe not very appealing. It certainly isn't for me. But with races, some of them becoming a little bit more technical or more interesting, and I mean the big one, the fact that the men aren't racing in Kona and they're racing, we don't yet know the exact course, but it's likely to have a big climb and descent and corners and all sorts. So this could be encouraging people to actually do a little bit more away from the turbo trainer as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there is also the potential difference of your power indoors versus outdoors. Often people find that they drop power when they try to ride indoors. So it's just making sure that, you do get that balance right and you are training outside and indoors. I would probably avoid doing solely everything indoors. I mean, my suggestion would be, I don't know if you're asking for advice here, but we're telling you.
Go on, tell us, Mark.
But I would do some of the shorter, harder sessions indoors and then some of those longer kind of what you could call sociable rides outdoors. But do make sure you mix it up. You will want to probably do some of the longer rides indoors and just hunker down on the TT bars at points.
Put a good movie on.
So it's absolutely fine to that balance. Just make sure you're not doing the same thing.
There's another bonus of indoor training. You can watch GTN at the same time.
You can also simulate courses indoors as well. I mean, we could go on for days here, but you can actually. And if you've got a hilly course coming up, or you're doing the Ironman World Championships in Nice, then you can simulate that course indoors. So lots of ideas there, but the main thing is just get that balance right. And let us know what you do in the comment section down below. How much indoor training do you do versus outdoors? Well, now finally we are on to the Tri News. We've got a lot so far. But as I mentioned earlier, we're still waiting on some races and the dates for those, including that are the PTO races. And we still don't quite have all of the dates, so stay tuned for that. But one that we do have is the Asian Open, which is going to be taking place in Singapore, in Marina Bay. The pro race, the 100k race, will be starting on the 19th of August with the women's race, and then the 20th of August we'll have the men's race. On that same day, we'll also have some of the age group races. They are due to have a host of different events, but currently they've announced they've got the 100k race, which is a 2k swim, 80k bike, 18k run, but also a duathlon. But as I say, more events yet to be announced.
Well, exciting stuff. And moving on with Tri News into a little bit of science that we spotted. A recent article that actually only came out this month comparing men and women and hot and cold when it comes to the pace of your first half of the marathon compared to the second half. And it's probably not that surprising that for both men and women in the warmer conditions, the drop-off was greater than in cooler conditions. However, the more interesting aspect was actually comparing men and women across both, and there was actually women who had less of a drop-off in their second half compared to the men. Now, they did their study using respiratory exchange ratio and actually said with that, they can't really prove the why that's happening. So it's interesting, but I think more research is needed, and I'd love to know what you guys think if you've got male or female friends and regularly run marathons and looking at we wanted to look at our own differences, but as you guys know, there's not much stats for Mark or James on their marathon performance, and I don't really have a huge amount either, but I would say that my pacing's fairly good generally, but that's, I think, more my personality than my physiology.
I mean, James has got a lot of marathon experience, but I don't think it'd be fair to compare his marathons in
at
a
the end of a triathlon, but interesting.
I think I'm going to go out on a whim here and say it's male ego.
I mean, I feel you can say that, I can't say that. So I'll just say interesting, Mark, interesting.
Yes. Now moving on, are you a sucker for kudos on Strava? Are you?
I am. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, I don't actually know how many I get, but I if I see a friend has liked it, I'm like, oh, as in if it's someone I know, that means more to me.
Yeah, cool, yeah.
I'm just like, oh, they seem how hard I'm working.
Well, there has actually been a study into that by the Radboud University in the Netherlands. They analysed a few different clubs based in the Netherlands, and they discovered that those that received more kudos were more inclined to run. Now, what they initially thought was that those that ran more would be more influential on the app. But actually it was the opposite. It was actually those that ran less that were more likely to follow the running behaviour of the friends that ran more.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's just, we generally live in a world of influencing each other without even realising, don't we? Just thanks to any form of social media, and Strava is a form of social media. So yeah, I guess we're naturally going to be influenced by looking at it, being on it, seeing what other people do. I mean, sorry, I must admit that I sometimes get frustrated if I've done, I'm one of those sad people that, like, I feel if I've done a really hilly run or it's an easy run, I have to say it's an easy run, because otherwise people are like, gosh, why is she so slow?
It doesn't even cross my mind, but yeah,
I
do see that with people. I can understand. It was interesting though. In this study, they asked a lot of the users beforehand why they use Strava, and obviously a lot of them were saying, "Oh, I just use it to log my training and analyse my training." But actually, when it boiled down to it, a lot of their research was showing afterwards that no, they just really like the kudos. Yeah, which is fair enough.
Well, I mean, anything that motivates you to run more has got to be a good thing, hasn't it? And which leads us on to running more. And this next bit of news that we've recently come across, it's quite impressive. There's a new world record for the most consecutive marathons. So a marathon every day, but guess how many days, or guess how many marathons? 150.
Yeah, Chalna Murray Bartlett actually decided to run the entire length of Australia, a distance of 6,300 kilometres or 3,900 miles, and in doing so actually raised over 1,000 Australian dollars for the conservation charity the Wilderness Society.
Well, alongside raising the money, she was also raising awareness for the extinction crisis that's actually facing Australia at the moment. So certainly something to help motivate her through those dark days, I'm sure. And she was going for a pretty epic record, because the previous record was held by a Brit that's at 106 marathons in 106 days. So I think she's made it quite set in stone that that's not going to be broken anytime soon.
No, definitely not. Moving on running, a partner of our channel, but also the fastest growing running brand in the world at the moment, has just opened its first European standalone running store on Regent Street in London, and it's quite impressive. It's modelled off basically a science museum with kind of an immersive shopping experience, including this, what they call it, the magic wall, which if you're unsure on what size shoe you are or the type of shoe, you can go and get a gait analysis and it'll figure out what size shoe and style of shoe you need. But yeah, I mean, it looks absolutely incredible.
I can't wait to pop up and have a look. And
we definitely should, shouldn't we?
Yeah. Check how we're running, and maybe
what
shoes we should be in. Well, talking of exercise, we are still in January and we're getting through it together. And the Zwift 30 and 30 is now, well, past halfway. And if you guys haven't heard about it, we're basically us and hopefully lots of you joining in and doing some sort of exercise for 30 minutes each day for the 30 days. Well, obviously you can do any form of exercise because movement is just great, but we're encouraging you to come and join us for either Zwift rides or Zwift runs that myself, Mark and James are leading throughout this month. Yeah,
and also including, we've got Steve, our veteran of the channel, who is taking on some Ironman events this year for us with Hawaii 5.0 project. But yeah, do join us. It's great fun, getting involved in the comments, chatting away to you. So thank you to those that have already. And also on that, do please send in some clips or photos of you getting stuck into some exercise this month and even some of the rides. Send them in to us using that photo uploader link on screen right now, also in the description down below. And we'd love to include them in a video. You could become famous.
Oof. Okay, it is time to take a look at your photos and videos. And to kick us off this week, we do actually have a video from Luca, and it's in Zagreb, Croatia. And this is an interesting triathlon because it's it is row, bike, swim. And he says the video was taken at the annual OKI rowing triathlon in Zagreb. And I mean, it's an interesting snippet that he's chosen to send us.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's gone on here. I mean, there are such things as bike catchers, typically more for the pros. It doesn't look like anyone's there to catch his bike. So I assume he was just like, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to throw my bike down and run and tag my
But interestingly,
teammates in this relay.
his bike almost went to the finish chute, or what could be the finish chute, and he was going the other side of it. Who
Very
knows?
confused. Let us know in the comments below if you're watching this, Luca. Love to know what's going on here. Next one sent in by Brian from New Zealand, and he said he's taking on the Hauraki Rail Trail morning group ride, and yeah, a lovely little clip. It looks like an amazing little trail, actually.
It does. Very inspirational. I like it. Talking of just nice and inspirational, this would inspire me on my run, but maybe I'm a bit different. This comes from Elise, and she's out on a bike ride in Littleton, Colorado. Says, went on a 32-mile bike ride around town with a friend. The highlight of our ride was meeting Miss Rosie the pig, who was out on a walk with her person. After asking permission to pet her, we greeted Rosie, who immediately plopped down on the ground, demanding belly rubs. We happily obliged. How cute is that?
I thought initially when I saw these photos, someone was posting in that they're out for a run with their pig. I'm glad that's not the case.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Next one from Sean from the Gold Coast in Australia, said that they were doing a swim session around Christmas time and happened to be swimming next to none other than Jan Frodeno, who was kind enough to take time to have a chat and even have a photo. And then 30 minutes later, none other than Helle Geens came out, and it was really cool to see them both.
I mean, he must have been training in a pretty epic place to have those two athletes just casually rocking up at Christmas, but it shows how us triathletes do travel to the sun, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, as always, please do keep your photos, videos, whatever you like, coming into us using that photo upload link on screen right now, also in the description down below. All right, now moving on to the caption competition. Last week we had this photo from Ironman Nice. This chap stretching out his back, hands on his back. And here we have some captions from Savage Pro 9060 France to Ironman. Nice try.
Yeah, I like that one. Seabear comes with, who knew this bike course would be such a backbreaker?
188352501 said, how you can tell the age of an athlete by how much they need to stretch out their backs.
Yeah, I feel that one. Joe Bansky says, as long as there are no turns on this road, I know I can win, hands down.
I mean, his hands aren't really down.
All right, come on.
All right.
He doesn't win.
The winner is Aaron Hyman, 1977. Well, thank goodness this is not an out and back.
Congratulations. Well, make sure you get in touch and we will send out a GTN bottle to you. Well, for those of you who are feeling imaginative, here is this week's photo for you to caption.
Well, sadly, that is it from us this week, but we have got lots of exciting stuff coming from the channel, including Heather trying to beat her 10K PB. In
the snow. I mean, my favourite running conditions. Those of you who know me well know there's a hint of sarcasm there. But before you do go, make sure you check out the GTN shop. We've got a great selection of things now. Hoodies, sweaters, t-shirts, and a few new things coming very soon, so keep an eye out for those.
Yeah, and if you enjoyed today's video, please do give it a thumbs up, give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe if you're not doing so already. We also had quite a good video out over the weekend that you might enjoy watching. Which presenter can burn the most fat? We put through our paces in the Sports Science Lab, and it was a very interesting video.